what were were your feelings on the bench, and what were your plans on those final defensive possessions?
At that point, we had to just play. I mean, it was, either they get a score and we get a stop, and, whoever executed was going to win the game. I think we've struggled with the baseline out of bounds defense. So, I think we were tested in a lot of areas in which we executed. They did get some good looks, but any other place, I think we lose this basketball game. With the fans that came out to support us, and they were loud, and they helped us get the win.
Dawn, what did you tell them at halftime to kind of change the tenor of the way things were going?
At halftime, I looked at the box score, and I saw that, our guards really weren't, having an impact on the game. But at the rate that our post players were executing, you almost have to continue to go with what's working. But then we had to balance it out. So, what we did was we set up some plays for Alicia Gray. She worked so hard defensively in the first half, and she sacrificed herself, and we wanted to just make sure that it wasn't a one-sided game for her, because she's a scorer. She can score, and she delivered for us.
Don, how good a game was this for the SEC as a conference?
I think this was a great game for the SEC. It was a great game for women's basketball. It was a great atmosphere. You saw two teams just fighting it out. I thought Mississippi State came out and was well prepared and hit some great shots. And for us, we just we had to settle in. It was a new environment for our team too. Some of the players that played, Ty Harris and Alicia Gray and Kayla, they haven't really been in this atmosphere as players. They sat on the bench and they watched. But once we got them in the game, I thought we settled down and took care of business.
And Don, the official committee tonight came out with a projected top 16, and you guys were 3, and Mississippi State was 4. Would you be surprised if you guys wound up seeing each other in the Final Four?
I would love that. I actually would love that. I think Mississippi State is a team that very well could reach the Final Four. They have all the key ingredients to being, a national champion. They got a great point guard who, manages the game, like no other. They got a great scorer in Victoria Vivians, and they got, they have layers and layers of post players. I mean, they just keep. I thought we're big, but they're pretty big. They keep bringing them, and they play well together. So, if that's the case, I think it would be, great to see them in Dallas. But we both have to do our parts to get there.
Coach, Alicia scored 16 of her 17 in the second half. From your perspective, what was the difference for her in the second half?
Well, the difference is opportunity. She got opportunities to shoot the ball. And sometimes when a player like Alicia Gray, who hadn't shot the ball a whole lot in the first half, you kind of want to get it going. And I thought we just kind of forced the issue to get her going, because we ran a couple of sets for her coming out of halftime. And when you're going to get the ball, you feel a little bit more comfortable, and you relax a little bit and not press. Usually in these type of games, she presses a little bit and shoots some ill-advised shots, but she waited patiently, and they forgot about her. And then that's kind of how you want the game to go at times, with especially this type of game.
Dawn, Kayla didn't have a great night shooting the ball, but defensively, she was on Vivian's in the second half. Just how much did that help in the second half when she switched to take over?
Proud of her. We didn't give her Vivian's in the second half. She took her. And when, a player like that wants to make an impact on that side of the ball, especially Kayla, because that's the type of effort that I know she's capable of doing night in and night out. And I hope, I told her I was proud of her. Really proud of her and her effort, and I want her to understand that she's just not an offensive player. She is probably the best athlete that I've coached, and we want her to be special on both sides of the ball. And she's very capable of doing that. She was definitely special defensively tonight.
Coach, the way this team performed, especially in the second half, such a tight game, every possession counted. What did you learn about your team tonight that maybe you had questions early in the year?
Well, I mean, the biggest question mark has always been, can we compete for 40 minutes? And we competed for 40 minutes, you know, whether it looked great or not. I just thought we were in it, and we were locked in and focused. And I was real proud of their effort to do that. And then I just felt like at times, you know, different players stepped up, whether it was, you know, Alicia Gray, you know, sprinting back to, you know, sprinting back to deter a wide open layup by Vivian's at the end of the game. You know, it's those kind of plays that our players need to see. They, you know, it had an impact on the game, you know, because they would have gone up at that point. So it is moments like that, you know, that we're constantly looking for our players to execute, and they did it tonight.
Coach, how much did you think Asia had a player of the year kind of game?
She played extremely well. I mean, I don't know who the player of the year is going to be. I don't know that. But certainly, you know, her name and Elena's name have to be in that, you know, that bunch. Because, you know, it's hard to not talk about them. And we need to start talking about them a little bit more. Not because we won the game, because they're special. And they're special just like, you know, some of the other special players that we've had in our game.
Coach, with so much at stake here with this two teams matched up against each other on top of the conference, what does having the team come through in this pressure-packed moment again do for their confidence moving forward as you push towards the rest of your goals?
Well, I mean, I hope it just puts us on edge, because this isn't the end. There's a lot of basketball to be played. You know, now that we're at the top of the SEC, just, you know, as far as record is concerned, everybody's still going to give us their best effort. So I don't want us to rest on our laurels. I want us to continue to learn from it. I want us to build on competing for 40 minutes and, you know, control our own destiny.
Coach, Joe kind of talked about it with you in the sense that, you know, what does this team prove to you tonight? And I know at the beginning of the year you kind of joked around saying, you know, I want to see this team be, you know, some dogs. You know, they need to have a little bite in them. It was aggressive game. It was an aggressive game, definitely down the post the last couple minutes of that fourth quarter. What have you seen just out of this team the last couple weeks, especially with the aggression?
Well, I've seen us get better. You know, every time that we challenge as a staff, challenge our players to get better in certain areas, they do that. It's unfortunate sometimes when you get better in one area, you lack somewhere else. So you're always kind of cycling it. But if there's anything that I would have liked our team to get better in, is to compete for 40 minutes, and we got that out of them tonight.
You were able to foul out their two biggest players with a couple of minutes left in the game. Do you think that had an impact on those in that final series, them not being in there?
I do. You know, considering, you know, they were pretty dominant from the floor. They did a really good job. You know, Richardson was in the game. McCowan was 5 for 5. You know, Okori, she's just a big body in there. She gets offensive rebounds. She got 10 rebounds, 7 offensive. So to take, you know, those two bigs out of the game leaves us a little bit more room. It makes us a lot bigger. And a little bit more room to operate to get rebounds and scores.